So here we go. I'm gonna start off with just the very basics. What I want you to know is that the figure, it is the probably the most complicated thing to draw because everybody is familiar with seeing each other, human beings, all the time. So if anything's off, even people that laymen's who don't know anything about drawing or anything, they can still tell if something seems a little tweaked. So I want you to understand, it takes a long time. The more you do it, the faster and better you're going to get. So I just want to say that right out of the gate. What we're going to start off with is something known as the line of action. And what the line of action is just the big gesture of the pose. Whatever the pose might be, it's that simple line of action that sort of just describes the gesture in it. And it's not gesture drawing. I'm going to get into that later. But here I'll do some examples for you of the line of action. I have this set up and I will show you right now. So here we got this figure. There's going to be 30 seconds, but line of action won't take as long. So there's the line of action for her right there. It's that simple. She's coming there, and if you got to put in more to try to get that line of action, want to exaggerate it, that's fine. Now we got this one, and this line of action is basically right there. That's the line of action. It's not the spine, it's just the line of action. It's the gesture of what she is doing. And this is what you want to start off with. You want to capture this sort of thing. Now we'll go to the next pose. I'm just going to keep giving you examples. Now here we got one that is very, there's no drama to the pose. It's just pretty much stagnant, symmetrical. So what do you do with that? You just put in a line of action like so. That would be it. And now we'll go to the next one. Same thing here. Her line of action is basically right there. That's it. Even maybe it could even be a little bit more like so. And then we'll go to the next one. Her line of action is that right there. It's this coming down right there. Let's keep doing these. Let me move those over. That's a good one. That's it, right there. So that's the idea of doing the line of action, just capturing the movement of the pose and where everything flows. That's the important thing. Everything flows. There we go. So that is line of action. And every pose has a line of action. Understand that. So that's what you want to think about and when you first put it in. So now let me move on to being a little slow there. Shrink that down. Put that over. come back here. Okay, so that's basically the line of action right there. Not basically, that is the way you think of the line of action. So on this one, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little demonstration of gesture drawing. And you use the line of action with the gesture drawing. These are going to be 30-second poses, so they're going to go by quickly. And because we don't have much time, and these are very good to do, putting down is the gesture right there, and I build a line of action on top. I mean the gesture on top. Same thing here. Wrong, I did it the wrong way. It goes like this. I'm not going to worry about it. Here's the torso coming down like so. We don't have much time. These are quick poses. Comes out, there's her arms, and here's her head. And these are 30-second gesture poses. Line of action, torso, there's that leg, here's the other leg, don't have much time. And there I just put in a very quick gestural drawing. I'm going to do some more here. Keep doing some gesture drawings. Her line of action. Ooh, that line got real thick. Okay, doesn't matter. There's a torso, head, arms. If I need to just put the arms in as stick figures, that's fine. I don't care. I'm just trying to get the feel of this pose. I'll do a small one here. Even if the proportions are off a little bit, I'm still not worried about it. This is just practice to get the feel. We can see this. That's it. Torso pinches in there, comes around, head's going off somewhere in that angle, arm, hand. And there's my quick gesture. Now these are 30-second poses. So the reason they're really good to do is because they push you to get the drama into the pose, and you can't sit there and noodle it. You can't sit there and worry about, oh, this line, you know, the hand, and connect it there. Is to push you where you start thinking in a gestural sense. This is very important, especially for animation. It's the poses that will tell it all. Now, you can also get poses that will be 5 minutes long, which is good. If you're going to take figure drawing class, that's good, because they'll start you off with 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes to half hour. And all it means is when you got more time, you slow down a little bit. But if you do all these poses, quick poses, those 30-second poses, you're going to be able to execute it much better when you get a 5-minute pose. You're going to feel like after doing a bunch of 30-second poses, you're going to feel like the 5 minutes, it's going to feel like an hour. And all you do is slow down a little bit, but it doesn't mean that you don't look for the essence of the pose. That's the whole idea of this exercise, of the very, very quick gesture, 30-second poses. So after you get familiar with that, and you just do a bunch of them, you know what? I'm gonna just keep going here. I think it'd be better if I just keep doing these quick poses, and then I'll stop. I'll do about 10 more. Okay, now I got less. I only got 15 seconds. What if I only got 15? I'm just putting down the things as the essence of the pose. And you're doing these for yourself. You're not doing them, and I know this is hard, you're not doing them for anybody else. You're doing them so you can teach yourself how to think quickly and get the gesture in there. I would just stop right there. Here we go. And I'm using the model, I'm using these models as reference. I'm not using them to copy. I'm using them as reference. And we got a tilt here, we got the pinch right there. This leg comes out, over, foot. And there it is. That's her torso coming out. That was the line of action. Pinch. Leg, leg. This leg comes down slightly. That's it, right there. Maybe just show a little bit there. Let's say we only got a little bit of room. There's my line of action. I think we already did this one, but doesn't hurt. Just repeat it. There we go. Line of action. Torso, and I'm going to get into the torso. I'm going to explain. It's very important. The tug and pull of the torso. I know I don't have much time. There. I'm looking more, I believe, yeah, I look more at my drawing. And line of action, and what I do is I know that after I get that line of action in there, and if I only got that much time, that's fine. Line of action is pretty much straight right there. Hand coming out, foot going back. It's all the time I had. Pinch, rib cage, head. The legs. Torso pinched. There's almost always a pinch. Any dramatic pose, there's always a pinch. Leg comes off there, and the head is way down there. Whoa, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I hit the wheel. What if you only had enough time to do a stick figure? See, you can do it in a stick figure also. These are a little trickier because they got foreshortening, but it's still the same principle. And that was all the time I had. So arms coming, I can feel that arm coming up, torso, the leg in front, foot, that one, head looking up there, and then we know right there. Don't let the foreshortening intimidate you. Notice I'm drawing over everything. I'm not worried about making pretty drawings. This is just warm-up. It's just practice. Now I'm going to really exaggerate this one. More than the actual pose. Start drawing smaller. Okay, I can feel I'm losing this one. And that's it. So Just remember, these are all line of action poses. I know I keep repeating myself. Repetition is necessary in drawing. Understand you can always come back into your drawings and add on to them, but that's what you want to try to capture and practice. Practice those a lot. Practice everything a lot, but what that will do is, like I told you, it's just going to free you up and force you to try to get the essence of the pose. Okay, so now what we'll do is I'm going to do a little bit longer poses here. So let me go back up here. We'll just take this pose. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit longer, and I'm just going to still do the same thing, but I'm going to slow down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, let's just start with this one. We got that's our line of action there, and then she comes out with the head like so. This pose, this gesture right in there, in that torso, is really bent. So that's what I want to strive for. She's coming forward a little bit, and I'm not going to slow way down. I'm still going to try to keep my pencil moving and put the gesture onto it. I know that leg's coming out, and I'll be a little bit more accurate in it, but I'm still using the model as reference. Push that arm out a little bit more. And let's say time's up on this one. So you can see, if I got a little bit more time, I can just, slow down a little bit, but I'm still staying loose. That's the thing you want to do. You don't ever want to get in there and start going like this. Like there's her arm, and then drawing just the contours of it. There is something called contour drawing, but that's not what we're gonna be talking about. We want to try to get the overall shape, the overall gesture, the overall attitude of the pose, and we want to make it cohesive. We want to keep it where it all looks unitized and looks like it belongs to the same figure. Let's go to another one. Okay. Okay. Line of action. Here's her torso. I can see it coming, stretching around this way. There's her chest, a little pinch in there, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later on, the way to break down the torso. Center line here, and right here, notice the weight. This hip bone, the pelvis, is down here, and this pelvis, this side of the hips are up. So what I mean by that is it's at an angle like this, and this leg right there is taking all the weight. So I'm just going to make it a straight right there, because that's what's taking all the weight. Foot comes down. You break it off there, coming up the center line. Here's her head, center line, the neck right there. I'm not even going to worry about. So now what I've created is a gestural pose that I don't even know how many minutes, let's say 5 minutes. Comes down there. And there I got another gestural pose. Let's move to the next one. Okay. Rhythmic line of action. I'm going too slow. I want you to work quicker. Here's our torso. We know it's a front view, side view, 3/4 view, so I'm gonna and the legs are going away from us a little bit. So I'm just going to draw these lines that imply that. Not so worried. And the head, if you notice right there, it's tilting this way. So there's our center line, there's our eye line, and the neck just comes right down onto what would be the rib cage. And we want to show this hand there, maybe a little bit more down. And I would stop right in somewhere around there. It's enough of the gesture. And look, I've exaggerated everything. Made the legs a little bit longer. And what I'm not doing is, I'm not trying to do an illustration. I'm trying to push everything a little bit more. And the reason for that is because I work in animation, and you don't want an animation, except for very straight characters. You really don't want to, illustrate it and copy it, like what they call rotoscoping, where you just trace over the live action. There's no point in it. The whole idea of animation is to caricature movement and the pose and push your poses. And even with characters that are more straight, like in a feature film, if you got a prince or a princess, even those are pushed a little bit. So remember that. Remember that you're not trying to, for animation, you're not trying to copy it exactly. You're trying to just push everything. There's that line of action. You can carry it through to the foot right there, but really, for me, this line of action is right there. Again, it's not the spine. Let's remember that. And here we have a tilt, even though If this is pinched on this side, that will usually determine where the tilt is. So I'm saying that the tilt is, even though it's pretty horizontal there, I'm going to exaggerate it. So I'm going to push it down a little bit that way just to get a little bit more drama into it. Here's our pinch right there, so keep it very simple. Comes around, and then we got this leg. It's coming out towards us, and I'm going to get into that a little later as far as perspective and drawing cylinders and boxes. And then we got this leg. It's really coming out towards us. So I'm going to just have it come up there, down, and then I'll think of a center line, just roughly, just to use it as a guide. Doesn't mean I need to stay with it. And she's got this very sweeping angular head coming around that way. We can see the tilt is like so. And then the arm going back there, capturing it. And she's leaning on this chair. There's her hand up there. When I put that hand right there, it gives me a landmark to know where to bring up the forearm. Up in there. And we'll leave it at that. We don't have much time. You know, there would be the chair. We do want to show, okay, I was off here a little bit. All I do is bring the arm down there. Here's our chair. If you got time, put the chair in. It's important as far as the props go, to give the environment. Notice the weight is on this leg. What does that mean? That means that this side of the pelvis is going to be higher than this side. What it means is there's going to be a tilt like so. But it's a subtle pose. So there's not a lot of tilt. Because this hip is down a little bit. Down like so. And this one, I'm just going to make it straight, line up the feet. I already know where the shoulders are. If you want, if it makes it easier, just draw some balls in there. And the breasts, same on the male figure. The pectorals and the breasts, they help to describe the tilt. And then the neck, a little bit there, there. And there's my gesture for the head. It's always good to draw eye line in. Here indicates which direction it's going. And let's just stop right there. Now look, after you get the pose, then you can add in, if you want to put in the hair quickly. It's got a lot of hair coming back that way. And if you want to indicate eyes and things, but that's just all rendering, and that will come later. But if you don't get this, if you don't get the gesture accurate, it doesn't matter how much rendering you put in. Like right here, I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, you know what? I made the legs a little bit too short. I'm going to extend those. And so if you don't get the framework of everything working correctly, it doesn't matter how much rendering or tones and values you put into it. It just doesn't matter, because it's going to look awkward. It's better to have just a scribbled out gesture drawing that's more accurate than a real pretty smooth rendered drawing. Because you put all that time and effort into putting the rendering and the tones in there. And if the framework, it's like building a house. If you don't build the foundation correctly and that the walls are crooked, well, first of all, it's not going to last for many years, and it's not going to look correct. So that's sort of the idea you want to think about it in, but we're not making something that's mechanical. We're thinking of the shapes and everything, but when you're putting down the gesture, you're just trying to get the essence of it. And if you look at it and you say to yourself, it looks off. If you want to bring, like right here, I'm going to bring this hand out a little more. Now it's looking like it's starting to, flush it out, and it's starting to look more accurate. And we'll leave it at that. I should have brought this head out more, actually. But look I'm not erasing. I'm just going over it because these are sketches. They're not a finished illustration or drawing. Okay? So that's the idea when you're just sketching and you're trying to get the essence of it. You just keep analyzing and keep trying to figure it out and put those shapes and forms in there quickly. So now we're going to go to the idea of what all the shapes and forms are made up of and what I'm talking about when I say shapes and forms. So let me go here, go there, make this a little bit bigger. Come on. Here we go. Okay. So let's understand this. Everything is made up in nature and man-made things is made up of these specific shapes. Now, when I say shapes, I'm not talking about forms. What's the difference between a shape and a form? A shape, let's say we got a triangle here. Any kind of triangle. That's a shape. Then we got a square that's tilted. That's a shape. Then we got a straight up and down rectangle. That's a shape. We got a circle. That's a shape. And then we got an oval. And that's a shape. Now, what's the difference between the shapes and forms? When I take the triangle and I add a dimensional plane onto it, let's say there's a vanishing point, everything's coming up there to the triangle. And when I add in this back plane right there, I suddenly made this triangle into a three-dimensional form. And that's the big difference. And now some artists, they just think in forms, others just think in shape. I think it's good personally to think in both. So we just made a triangle into a form. Now we'll take the square that's tilted a little bit. It's just a geometric square. And let's say that there's a vanishing point there. That means where all the other planes are going to lead back to. And look, you can see I'm not putting a lot of time. I'm not noodling it. I'm just bringing everything there and just lightly sketching it. And then I'm going to draw this a little bit darker to flush out the drawing. That's realizing the drawing, just making it clear. And suddenly I've made that square into a box. Another form right there. Let's continue on with this rectangle. Now we'll make it a upshot. So we'll put vanishing point there loosely, put in these lines, and they come up to the corners. And if you're trying to find where this corner is, just draw through. Okay, so we drew through, and now I'm just going to parallel the side of the rectangle box, flush that out, and this is, the top is going horizontally. That will mean the back of it is also going to go horizontally, and I'm just going to flush out drawing, realize it a little bit, and you can see that's pretty simple right there. And we'll make this real dark just to break it up, and I created another form from the shape, from this one to this one. We'll take our circle and we'll say that the light is coming from this angle, hitting the ball, the circle right now. Now we're going to turn it into a ball that has form, because this is the shadow back here. And there, I made it. Now it has some form into it. And this is true with all the shapes and forms. And when I say that everything is made up of these shapes and forms, what I'm also talking about, let me bring these down a little bit. Move that over. So what I'm talking about when I say that is, if you take, let me see, something in, let's say a leaf. If you take a leaf and here's the leaf and here's the stem of the leaf. Well, what I've done is I've drawn shapes right here. And you can look at this in different ways. You can look at this part of the leaf as two triangles. Triangle there, triangle there. It might be a little warped, but you want to start thinking in that way. So triangle here, triangle there, and then let's say up here, it comes down and it doesn't pinch right in here, and it comes down like that. You can think of that as a rectangle, but the rectangle is a little warped. So that's what creates the stem right there. So we got this warped abstract rectangle, two triangles that are a little warped, and all these shapes can be broken down into abstract shapes and then abstract forms. So even in nature, when we got a leaf like this, and then let's say the leaf has these little edges that come out like so. You know, what they are basically is just tiny, tiny little triangles. And the thing you want to do is just be aware of this. You don't want to sit there and, you know, worry about it. Does it look like a triangle or anything? You just want to be aware of it. And it will help you out in your drawing to recognize that this is how things are built up and made, even in nature. And everything that we make, the human beings make, you know, is all made up of those geometric forms. So that's the basic idea of it. Now there's also what you call a cylinder. And what a cylinder is and it's very important, is, let's say you got a hose, and the hose is bending just slightly right there. I'm drawing through under, but here's the hose, and as it bends, think of it as a cylinder that can be pliable, that can bend and move, and you can do it in extreme. Here, I'll draw another one. And there's one that's bent even more. It's more pliable. And what you do, these are surface lines, and you can put these in. If it helps you in your drawing, especially at the beginning, put in those surface lines. Here's surface line, there's surface line. What that is letting us know is what direction this cylinder is going. Same thing here. We can see here's the front of it, there's the plane in the front, and then it's turning away from us in space, like so, where that arrow goes. This one is coming up in this direction. And we know that we can feel the top of it there, and this bottom one, we don't see any plane, and that's how you convey the three-dimensional quality again. So instead of having a hard edge, a plane, a real plane, you know, where it's the side of it, the ball doesn't have a plane. It just has a form, and the shadow just gradually goes around the form. So if we're going to draw a form here, if the light again was coming from this side, and I'm just going to cross hatch it, we can get a feel for the form with the tones and values and shadow. Now in animation, we don't have the luxury of using tones and shadows. Everything in traditional animation, everything is basically, it's just all line drawing. So the next question is, well, how do you make, if it's all line drawing, how do you make the forms, one form, look like it's in front of another? So let's take a circle there, a circle there. They're not balls, they're just two circles that are interlacing with each other. Now I'm going to make this one seem like it's in front of this one. how I do that is overlapping lines. So I'm going to just flush it out, make it a little darker, and this one's behind it, right there. And then when I get rid of these lines right there, it is now letting us know that this one right there is in front of this one. And that's with pure line, nothing else. If I wanted it the opposite way, all I do is the opposite overlapping lines. So now I'm going to make this line overlap in front of this one. And now it looks like it's coming out towards us in this direction. And it was the opposite with the other way. So that's how you create the illusion when you're drawing these forms and you want to put one form in front of another. It's the overlapping lines, and that's these right there, going in front, right there. So even if we got objects, let's say that we put one box in front of another box. I'm going to start off with a shape here. Put a little the side plane. We're going to look at the bottom of it here. But then here's another box back here. We'll make this a long rectangle. Just for the fun of it. But this one's coming in the other way. Well, here's the overlapping line right there, these dark lines. And what that does, that lets us know what's in front of what. Let's remember, if I wanted it the other way, I just put that overlapping line in front of that box. So that's really important when you want to show a three-dimensional quality to your characters or to your figures. And I'm going to show you quickly what I mean by that as we draw some more figures. So let me make sure, I just want to make sure I'm covering, oh, you know what, before I go on to that, what I want you to know, which is great practice, and a lot of people just hate doing this, but I don't hate doing it because it helps me, it helped me out so much when my teacher said, Wayne, you got to practice your forms and drawing your forms, just fill up pages with different forms. So what I mean by that is, let's get back to where we draw boxes, and I'm going to have them moving in space, like so. There's one, and then over here I'll do an abstract triangle, but I want to give it a three-dimensional quality. There's the plane right there, and then let me come up with a rectangle that we're looking down on. Goes away a little bit in perspective, and you want to force yourself to try to make these different shapes and objects, even if they're warped or abstract. You want to make them look like they're three-dimensional forms floating in space. And then if you do let's say we take a cylinder and it comes down that direction. Okay, so far what we have is this shape that comes down, but I want to make it convincing that it's got form into it. I'll just do this. I will draw surface lines on it. And now it looks like it's coming from back here out towards us. And you can do this in just, it's endless in how much you can do this. And this, and then you can draw, let's say we have this just going to be a path of action right there. And I'm going to draw a bunch of balls that are overlapping. They're going to follow this path of action. You'll see what I'm doing. Let me just keep going. But I want to show the form of one ball in front of the other. I've just roughed in some, and now I'll slow down a little bit. And what we're doing is we're creating these balls that is one in front of the other. And by this overlapping line, these right there, that's letting us know that it's coming out from there, and this ball is in front. There's number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I could have done it all the way back there. But this is how you're going to learn about putting one form in front of the other. So let's recap here. Philip, if you're tired and stuff, this is what I do. I'll just, because it doesn't take much concentration, I will just start putting down forms and very abstract ones. Let's say this. Right there, that's a shape, but the second I do this, now we got a plane back there, and it's turned it into this abstract sort of form, and it looks three-dimensional. I'll do very thin forms. Let's say this is a thick playing card. That's just moving in space. And the idea that I put this plane right there, it looks like it's got some thickness to it. It doesn't just look like a shape. So practice that. Do pages and pages of that to where the reason why is because when you do pages and pages of that, of all these exercises, everything here, when you do go to draw the figure, after you get that gesture in there, you're going to be able to see where the arm and where the legs and head and everything, you're going to start to see how those shapes and forms, you'll be able to break them down and analyze them. So now we'll go here. Okay, what I did was I put in some drawings. I put in right here, and I'm going to break these down, these poses. I'm going to break them down into the forms that I'm talking about. Now, before I go on to that, actually, I want to explain to you about, you can make the torso, let's say. A lot of people, and this is what you're going to, I use them all. I use everything. I'm always trying to find more information, something that is going to behoove my drawing and help me out. The master draftsman Glenn Vilppu was my art teacher for drawing the figure. And what he had taught me, and it works great, this is a real simple one because that's what he tried to do, was in the torso. He said, think of it as a beanbag. You know, it's just, there's the pinch right there. Here's the stretch, and you're going to find that everywhere. So there's one way to think of the torso. Another way is let's say we have a gesture like this, and you can do it like so. And we'll say this is the rib cage there. Forget about putting that line in there for now. And then off the back of it will come the pelvis, and I shouldn't put those. I don't want you to get confused. Let's just keep simple, simple, simple. That's what we want to think about. And then we'll say that it's coming down this way, and here's the pelvis right there. So you can do it like this also. And it works. Both ways work. All these different ways I'm going to show you work. And there we got torso right there. And then let's say that we're going to do it in boxes. I don't want it that angled. So here's the upper torso. That's a box. Oops. There's the upper torso. Gonna come down. And then we'll make the lower torso. And we're gonna put it on a tilt a little bit. And there, you could do it that way too. You can use boxes. You can also use two circles if you want. Here's the rib cage, there's the pelvis down there. It's all the same principle. So whichever one you use, understand it's not so much does this one work better than this one or that one? No, not one works better than the other. They all work. It just matters what it is exactly that works best for you. What helps you to understand the way these forms are working. I want to bring up one thing. This I learned from Steve Houston. He uses, what's he call it? The bullet? I'm not sure what he calls it. Or it's the tip of anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the shape, and from what he does, it's sort of like a bullet. And this is one way that he figures out a shorthand for the torso. And he uses this, not all the time, but it's a very good one, because what it does, it makes the torso fit solid into that form. So if the torso had a little bit of twist into it, like that, give her, it's a little out of proportion. But if it has that sort of twist into it, you get, because these muscles come down into, this more of a female figure, comes down into these hips on the front. And I use this one a lot. It helps me out a lot. So remember that. It's just basically, if we're going to do it in another angle, like it was going away from us, I'll give it more length. Like so. And it's less prevalent on the male body. Females are wider down here, and males are narrower. So that's another good one. I also recommend Glenn Villepeu's way of drawing. There's a lot of artists out there online. Go to Proco, Houston, Villepeu, and many other artists. just try to pick up on different references and the way they approach it. You can also do the torso just as one long cylinder. This is a very simple way to do it. And let's say it's coming down like so. There's a little bit of twist. Comes down and right there, and then start off big, and then you can start to put on the other parts. And there's torso, head. So there's many approaches. Try them all and see which one connects for you, which one makes for now, which one maybe they all will. I mean, they all do for me. I just use them on certain poses. When I use the block, this method, it works better. Other times when I use beanbag, they all work. Okay, all right. So now we'll go to back up to this guy. So what I'm going to do is, let me go a little red here so we can see it better. Here we go. Okay. Now, I'm not going to be putting in the gesture lines and all that. I mean, it's basically that. But the main thing is what I'm doing is showing the construction and trying to break it down into those forms I was talking about. So, and I recommend everybody to do this right over drawings. I did it when I was a student and I still do it. Back here, I'll just put in a ball there. And then right here, I'm going to break this down. A lot of foreshortening there. I'm going to break the top of that leg down into that shape. And I'm not going to sit there and worry about going directly over the reference. And I break that down. And I'm starting to be able to see the forms that make up this pose. And then right here, you can draw a long cylinder. You'll note here, if I put on the surface lines, I have this top arm coming that direction. This one is going to be going a little bit in that direction. And this one's coming out towards us a little bit. And we'll do this leg, put the break, upper leg, could have made a long cylinder, I just broke them into two separate shape forms, and it's starting to look solid. Now, is this a pleasant drawing to look at aesthetically? No, not at all. But that's not the point of doing this. The point of this is to learn how things go from one another. I can also put a ball bearing in there for the shoulder there, and then again. Break that off. Hand. Now, and hands, that's a whole nother. It's not a whole nother game. It's the exact same thing. It's just breaking those. There's so many different, hands are very complicated. They got a lot of different forms in them and structure. But if you approach them in the same way, it's the exact same thing. his head. I'll just break it into that form, and then the neck, and center line. So there, actually I made that rib, the upper torso too big. So there we've broken it down right there, and I just broke it down into the forms, and we'll keep going with this. And this one, I'm going to use a little bit different approach. I'm going to do this one extremely simple. Let's say that I'm just going to draw her and figure her out in cylinders. Side note, the pelvis, when it's just, let's say we got a figure standing here or here, the pelvis is tilted, the back of it is higher right there, and then the rib cage comes off like so. I'm not really concerned, but remember that the pelvis always has a tilt to it this way, and then a little bit of tilt, but it always has a little bit of tilt in it. So that's what we're going to see there, but I'll get into that later. So let's get back to this. We're going to keep it simple. Cylinder. Break this up. Cylinder. This leg. Cylinder. We'll make this, think of this as just one long cylinder. And right now I'm really just putting in shapes. There's another cylinder, hands, feet, I'll worry about it later. So there we got these shapes, and this can be very beneficial too. So now, how am I going to show these forms when I just got these shapes like so? Well, just for practice to understand, here's the surface line that is showing the direction of the arm going up in that direction, and then over here we're going to draw some surface lines like so. This one is very subtle. Right there, there's the break in the elbow, and then we're going to look at surface lines of the torso. Comes up like so. And then we're looking down upon her. So we're going to create these surface lines like so. And you can see right there is the showing the three-dimensional quality of those big shapes. And then you can go in and figure out, you know, I'm going to get into overlapping lines, but you'll figure out more of the anatomy. And that's what you want to use your books for, your figure drawing books. You want to go use them and study the foot. If you have questions about the foot, how does that foot really work? Well, pick up one of the anatomy books, figure drawing books by the masters, and they will show you the basic simple proportions of it. So right there in this mechanical looking doll-like drawing is we're able to show some form right there. So now let me use this. I'm gonna go in here, use the same model, but now I'm going to be talking about overlapping forms. So I'm going to come in here, I'm just going to start drawing the way I naturally draw. I'm just sketching, putting it in. Use the beanbag. Try to get that gesture in there quick. And there, we'll stop there. There I got my quick gesture in there. Now I'll slow down, start analyzing it more. Think about this rib cage that is in there. Indicate the spine a little bit, and here is the arm. Coming down with the arm, and here's the overlapping line of the shoulder right here. This might help you to be able to see where I am. Where the cursor is, that's the overlapping line right there. There's one. Back here is the overlapping line in front of the upper arm. And that's what gives it three-dimensional quality. And then even on this forearm here, the top arm overlaps it a little bit. Let's find some better examples. Coming down here, here's her glutes. We know that this, her cheek right here, butt cheek right there, is in front of this one, overlapping line. And then right here on where her pelvis is coming down and the lower torso is coming into the leg, it's this line right there that is going to overlap in front of her upper leg. And those are the overlapping lines that give it the illusion of three-dimensional space. This line right there of her other glute down there. And now let's take this arm. We know that this top arm there is in front of that form. And what I do is I just draw that overlapping line right there, right in there, and that lets us know what form is in front of the other form. And this is true throughout the drawings. So if you're drawing a character, let's say if I'm going to make up a character out of my head, or even a figure, but this applies to animation and all line drawing, commercial type Renaissance line drawing. I don't mean it's commercial. Anyway, I'm just trying to think of some kind of pose here. Got my gesture in here. I'm just thinking gesture right now. Not even sure where I'm going. That's why I'm staying loose here. The head down. Like so. Okay, we'll just do something like this. Alright, now I started off big. I'm going to break it down more and more. There's my eye line. I'll give a little three-dimensional center line. Always important. Remember to always put in the head. Eye line, center line. Lets us know immediately what direction the figure is looking, or whatever character you're drawing. Okay, and the neck comes line. The neck is at an angle here. This is another. Did I already talk to you about that? Remember when I talked to you about the pelvis? It's always got a little bit back here. It's a little bit higher. Well, on the neck, and let's say there's stomach. On the neck, when it lines up, here's a rib cage. Very simply, when the neck is on and is mounted on top of the rib cage, it's at an angle like this. And a big mistake I see people do all the time is they'll have a rib cage like this, and then they'll put the neck directly on top like that. That's just not the way it is. The lower part, the front of the neck, is down here, and the back of the neck mounts up there. So always look for that. That will really stiffen up your drawing if you get in the habit of doing that all the time. Even a soldier, if they're standing up straight, it's less than this, but there's still slightly a little bit of that. So, all right, now we're going to get back into this, and rib cage, pelvis. But now I want to be able to make the forms, which forms are in front of which other ones. So let's start off with the leg here. I'm going to come down here, draw that big form there, give her some real long legs, and this right there, that overlapping line is now letting us know that it is in front of her pelvis right there. We'll come over here and we'll say, let's say that this leg is coming out towards us a little bit in that direction, this leg, if there are form lines. This is going to overlap right there, the calf. Here's our knee, and it will overlap slightly there, and then we come down there, but it's this line that is letting us know which direction that form is going. And now we'll take the other leg, and just for the sake of this exercise, we'll say that that leg is going to go out away from us a little bit. And this line right there is letting us know, right in there. Hope that you can see that. Right there is letting us know that it's going away from us. And it would be the same thing with the foot. The ankle will be in front of that foot, and it will be going, the foot will be going away in that direction. So now we got a feeling of it going away from us. We'll break these into simple shapes, forms. There's the upper arm, and we want to put the shoulder, there's the overlapping line of the shoulder in front of the rib cage, the upper torso. And we'll just say that that arm is also going away from us, so I'm going to put this in front. On the wrist, The wrist overlaps in front of the shape of the hand. And now it makes everything look like it's going over in that direction. Same thing right here, the jawline, where I put the center line. It's making the head look like it's coming around that way. So the jawline overlaps in front of the neck there. And then the breasts we're really not going to see. Maybe just a tad under there. And that's basically it. That's how you get to make a line drawing look three-dimensional. So let's see what else, grandson, I can figure out. I think that's about it, and I think that's enough information for now. Just draw everything, man. I mean, just if you can't think of anything to draw, like I'm looking at you right now, and I see this camera is pretty much looking directly at me, and I mean, I'll do that, and then I can see there's an overlapping form there. It comes down, it's hinged right there, and I'll do quick drawings like this, very quick. And there it's held up in a triangle shape like that. That's the hinges coming off that direction. And I'll just draw. That's what Glenn Vilppu said that to me when I was his student. I said, well, what do I draw? And he goes, you draw everything. Even things you don't want to draw that are boring. I'm kind of playing in that. If you don't want to, don't draw. Draw things that are interesting to you. But know that everything breaks down into all those basic shapes and forms that I went over. And then you got don't forget about your gesture, your quick poses. Let me do a quick recap real fast here, so we can go over this. Okay, there we go. We got the those quick poses. Remember, here's the line of action I showed you in the very beginning, and then I started showing you these 30-second poses. I do these as warm-ups. I do them for myself. I do not care if they're perfect or not. I'm just trying to get it in there. Same thing. I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, geez, I can't even see what's going on. But then, actually, I can. If I come back in, I can see, okay, I'm going to still work quickly here. But that was the arm going back here, head somewhere there. This one was this figure that was being pulled up like so. Same thing there, very quick, flush it out a little bit, same thing there. And so these were just the quick 30-second drawings. And you can even, my teacher even had, when I was, Glenn Vilppu would have me do, had the class do 10-second poses. That's how important it was. Same thing there. And then I slowed down. I was a little rusty, I can tell. That's another thing about drawing. It's just like anything. You gotta warm up. Best way, actually, I didn't show you the warm up. All I do in warm up is I draw lines and the forms in space. That helps me warm up. A little bit longer poses. And there we go with those basic shapes right up. Circle that. Shapes right up in there, and then we got our forms right up in there. Shapes to forms, and then you want to play around and learn how to make those shapes and forms, even if they're warped or abstract. You want to figure out how to make them look three-dimensional. The torso, just different ways to approach the torso. You're going to find this all over the internet. That internet is an incredible tool. I wish I had that when I was first learning all that. Always check out different people's approaches. It helps. And then we'll go here, breaking it down into the forms. Breaking it down again. A little simplified there. What did I do with, oh, there it is. Don't forget this. This is just another way of approaching it. You can just put those form lines on there if it helps you to see it. And it does help. And that's it.